Fellow councillors, staff and residents viewing via live stream, good morning all and welcome. I acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of the land on which this meeting is being held and pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. I now call on Pastor Muzu from the Seventh-day Adventist Church to deliver the opening prayer. Pastor.
Just share a little text with us this morning. It's from the book of Philippians chapter 4 and verse 13. And Paul says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Paul is one of the heroes of the Bible, especially in the New Testament. And Paul says, I can do all things through him, Jesus Christ who strengthened him. And from the experience which Paul had in various circumstances of life, he comes here to the general conclusion that he could do all things. He could bear any trial. He can perform any duty. He can subdue any evil. He can meet all the kinds of temptations. And his own experience in the various changes of life had warranted him in arriving at this conclusion, and he now expresses the firm confidence that nothing will be required of him which he will not be able to perform. So in Paul's declaration, this was not a vain self-reliance, nor was it a mere result of his former experience. He knew very well where the strength was to be obtained, by which to do all things, and on that arm that was able to uphold him. He confidently relied on Jesus, who will provide him with the strength that he needed to deal with any circumstance that come his way. Jesus has a promise to meet our every need today, and he is with us to give us help and strength in our very time of need. Let's pray. Gracious, loving, merciful God, we pause at this moment to acknowledge you, the creator of all the universe, the King of kings and Lord of lords, the one who was, who is, and who is to come. I thank you, Lord, for this opportunity that we come together, Lord. And I pray, Lord, for your special blessings upon this office, upon every councillor here, as they open this meeting, as they deliberate. Lord, I pray for wisdom, for knowledge, that they may be able, Lord, to perform their duties to the best of their ability. I pray, Lord, that you will endue them with special wisdom this morning as they deliberate and as they deal with some difficult issues, Lord. That may you continue to guide and lead in this meeting, Lord. Thank you, Lord, again for this council. Thank you for this office. Thank you for the great sacrifice and the work that they've been doing in our community, Lord. Make this community a beautiful place to be and to belong. I pray, Lord, that you will continue to guide them and lead them into the future. But right now, may your presence will be with them as they open this meeting, Lord. We thank you once again for your promise that we could do all things through you, who will strengthen us. May your peace, may your mercy and your love will be with them now. We thank you once again, Lord, for forgiving all our mistakes. We thank you for accepting us this morning. May all the glory and honor be to your name. It's my humble prayer in Jesus' precious, wonderful name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
God bless us.
Councillors and staff, recently Kendall Rule Botel sadly passed, and Kendall was the daughter of Ian and Anne Rule. Ian Rule worked for council for 44 years in the roads department, and he served 2 terms as a councillor. And former workmates of Ian's, who are still in our workforce, approached me to acknowledge the sad passing of Kendall with a minute's silence at today's meeting. So I'd please ask you to be upstanding for 1 minute. Thank you. Thank you. We move on to apologies. We have Councillor McLeod as an apology. Are there any further apologies? I'll take that as a no, thank you. Declaration of conflict. Declaration of prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest. Please use this opportunity to make public any prescribed conflict of interest or declarable conflict of interest in respect of the items in the agenda. Councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interests in accordance with the Act and the regulations. Are there any conflicts to declare, councillors?
No.
I'll take that as a no. Thank you. We now move on to item 1, confirmation of the minutes. 1.1, page 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of September 2021. Would somebody move that they are a true and accurate record, please? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Millwood. That's carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 2. Any business arising from those minutes? Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 5.9, cleaning up the town entrances. I see the TMR have been doing some signs, but I see from Cardwell right through Innisfail. There's still many signs that are very stained with mildew, etc. And it would be a great look if we could get those signs up to a standard. And also, while we've got the floor, 5.7, Port Hinchinbrook dredging, I'll be asking Mr. Goodman in general business about 5.7. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. What are you recommending we do about the signage? You saying that we should refer that matter to Main Roads via correspondence?
Yeah, we have done that previously.
Okay.
And they did a certain amount, which we're very grateful. It's just that it seems a little bit of hit and miss. They're not doing all the signs. Thank you.
Okay, that's noted. Any further general business? Business arising, sorry. Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick one to Mr. Graffin. Previous meeting, I asked about the Eddie Bay. I believe you've had a bit of an inspection yourself down there, the toilet block. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, we've been down and had a look at the site. We're investigating some opportunities. There's some fishing infrastructure grants that have been made available, which also fund improved access for all abilities, particularly around toilet blocks, and be seeking to engage a consultant to come up with a bespoke solution for that facility.
Thank you, Councillor Pervin. Any further business arising? If not, we'll move on to item 3, receipt of minutes, 3.1, page 17. The draft minutes of the Cassowary Coast Traffic Advisory Committee held on the 25th of August 2021. Mr. Goodman will present. Morning.
Morning, Mr. Goodman. Morning, councillors. Councillors, this report provides you the draft minutes of the Cassowary Coast Traffic Advisory Committee meeting, which was held on the 24th of August this year. This was took a little bit in getting this meeting organised. When we were first trying to get this meeting done, there was a Cairns COVID scare, and so we. And the long story, the shorter version of that story is that we ended up having this as an online meeting, which actually went quite well. Part of that decision making to have that as an online meeting was that there was not any new agenda items to be discussed at the meeting. We were only reviewing the action items, of which there was plenty to consider, given that the previous meeting was the first meeting for some significant period of time. Councillors, I think that the issue that I would draw your attention to is that in business arising from the previous meeting, 2.1 Alice Street, Innisfail, there's some ongoing concern from a number of schools there about speeding issues. We have undertaken some speed traffic surveys. Sorry, I should clarify that. We've undertaken one traffic survey, and we are undertaking another one, but the results from the first one was that during those peak school hours, speed, 85th percentile speed was 33 kilometres an hour, which is quite low, and certainly within the requirements. So that's not indicative of requiring any significant new infrastructure to manage the speed environment in and around that school, but we are undertaking additional speed surveys. In the meantime, DTMR officers are offering to work with particularly Good Counsel College in the establishment of a Safe ST committee for that school. Apart from that, councillors, there was no I don't feel there's any particular issues that I'd like to raise, and the recommendation is that the draft minutes be received and noted.
Councillors, any questions for the officer? Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Just two things. Firstly, just I think a thank you to the TMR for the great signage on the entrances to Mission Beach and Curramine Beach with the smiley face and the cranky face. I think it's a great way of embarrassing you if you are speeding with that upside down cranky man looking at you, and they've been well received by community as well. So thank you. And just also just I've had people from Bingle Bay talk to myself and officers regarding the entranceway, the traffic speed to be asked to be slowed down. Could you give me any advice and information on that, please?
Through the chair, Councillor Chewy, that's a matter that will be considered by the Speed Management Advisory Committee. We're waiting on a report to be provided to that committee. So no action at this time, but officers are investigating, doing their traffic surveys, looking at alignments. There's a number of issues that are considered: alignment, existing traffic speed, number of intersections, number of accesses, those sorts of things, and there'll be a recommendation go to the Speed Management Advisory Committee I expect at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions for the officer? Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, David, an update on the Safe Schools program with DTM, Safe Streets or Safe Schools program that DTMR are initiating with Good Counsel College. They've also got the P&C from Good Counsel Primary and the P&C from Central State School involved, so it's going to be an all-of-area program, which I think is a great benefit to DTMR and to the schools. And also there's been an ongoing issue on edge management in Owen Street from Alice down to the Central School, and I will say I received 2 phone calls yesterday from residents to pass their congratulations on to council, because council has started some edge management work in that area as of yesterday, and it's great to see. So I'd just like you to pass your thanks on to your team and also Mr. Sadler's team for the great works that have been started.
Certainly will do. And if I could, Mr. Mayor, just add the benefits of for those schools that get involved with that Safe ST program is that projects that are identified through that Safe ST process and endorsed by DTMR and or council, there are funding. There is certainly funding available for projects that arise out of those Safe ST committees and the issues that they identify, and any specific projects that are approved to rectify those issues. So certainly that's good news that those schools are getting involved in that program.
So through the chair,
Yep. Yes, Councillor Millwood.
how did the schools actually get involved with that, Mr. Goodman?
It's a very simple process. Any school that wanted to establish a Safe ST committee, we will facilitate that. There's Main Roads Cairns have a dedicated officer to assist in that, and we can certainly put any schools in touch with the appropriate officer within Main Roads.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Any further questions for the officer? If not, would somebody move that the draft minutes be received and noted? Moved by Councillor Purvin, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour?
Yep, in favour.
Thanks, Councillor Millwood. Carried unanimously. Thanks, Mr. Goodman. We now move on to item 4, Governance, Environment and Finance, 4.1, page 40, Information Services Incident Management Policy, and Mr. Wilson will present this report. Mr. Wilson, welcome.
Good morning, councillors.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you for the opportunity to present the new incident management policy for council. It has not been put forward in the past. The policy is actually set out to manage how we respond to information security breaches, covering areas but not limited to breaches due to negligence, breaches caused by accident or by intent. The policy sets out a procedure which will allow council to have confidence that visibility of any breaches going forward, as well as remedial actions or education that will be required. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for the officer? No, no questions. Would somebody move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Chewy. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Are you with us, Councillor Millwood?
I'm with you, yep,
Okay,
in favour.
carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item 4.2, page 51, Finance Report, and Ms Bradley will present this report. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors.
Good morning, Ms Bradley.
Morning.
This morning we have our finance report and our monthly council reporting package for the period ending 31 August 2021. So council adopted our 2021 budget on the 25th of June, which is the budget reflected in this report. So the report provides information and tracks council's year-to-date revenue and expenditure by department, programs and services. It also includes some financial statistical data as well to highlight council's operations. Some of the key highlights include operational revenue, currently sitting at 38.3 million, which is 2.4 million under budget in comparison to the year-to-date budget of 40.7 million. Operating expenditure sitting at 17.2 million, which is 53,000 under budget in comparison with the year-to-date budget of 18.2 million. Our end of month cash balance was sitting at 43.6 million, and capital expenditure for the month of August totaled 1.7 million, and year-to-date capital expenditure including commitments was totaling 13.2 million, which is 9% in comparison to the full year budget excluding commitments, or 29% including commitments. Our measures of financial sustainability are reported on the second page. Firstly, we have our operating surplus ratio, which is currently sitting at 54.95%. The target range is between 0 and 10%. The reason why this is sitting over that targeted range is due to the timing of our revenue recognition. So year to date, we've received around 40% of our revenue for the year already, as we've had 2 major rate runs throughout the year. And from an expenditure perspective, we've only spent 18.5% of our budget, as we're only in August. So you will see that ratio change as the year progresses as we spend the remaining budget. Asset sustainability ratio is sitting at 42%. Targeted range is greater than 90%. This is below that targeted range due to the timing of capitalisations. As our financial asset register is currently still being audited, we haven't yet rolled that data to process capitalisations this financial year. So once we do that, then you'll see capitalisations come through and that ratio will increase. Summary of financial results. So some of the key highlights on the third page relates to net rates and utility charges. So it's currently 2.2 million under budget year to date. So this is due to a water consumptions journal that wasn't processed, totaling 2.02 million at the end of the month. That's now been processed. And also the timing of rates discounts taken up. So we had a number of our community pay their rates earlier than our due date, which is why we've recognised a greater discount during the month of August than normal. Fees and charges are currently sitting 177,000 over budget. This relates to animal registrations, were invoiced out earlier than we had budgeted for. Building fees are also up by 20,000. Camping fees are also up by 20,000. And our budget will be realigned as part of the September review to be discussed with Council. Sales and recoverable works is sitting 163,000 under budget. So this is due to the timing of our RMPC claims, which have not yet been processed. So that's why you're seeing the variance there. Employee expenditure, tracking 116,000 under budget relating to vacant positions, currently going through the recruitment process. But you'll also notice that contract labour is also over budget by 67,000. So it's backfilling some of those roles using contract labour at this point. Materials and services, tracking 760,000 under budget. due to some additional insurance savings that we were able to find this year. Also contract expenditure relating to landscaping, plant hire and infrastructure, and the timing of those works. We've had reduced fleet fuel as well as maintenance expenditures also down. Gain on asset disposal down the bottom of that table, it's currently tracking 109,000 over budget. This relates to our proceeds from the sale of fleet items that have been processed during the month of August. Investment performance. So with Council's cash balance of 43.6 million, year to date we've been averaging an interest rate of 0.59%, which is quite miserable. However, we have been able to lock in a term deposit which we're getting processed this week at 0.75%, so that will bring that average up slightly. Capital projects, so our budget that's been adopted is 35.4 million. We've got estimated carryover from last year sitting at 10.4 million, still to be confirmed as part of our budget process, giving us a total budget of 45.8 million. So year to date we have spent 4.1 million of our capital budget, and we've got 8.9 million that's been committed. So this reflects 9% of the budget being spent excluding commitments. So throughout the year we also identify and monitor any of our budget risks that come up. So currently those that we're aware of include Port Hinchinbrook Road and sewerage assets, as well as those insurance savings we spoke about earlier as a positive budget risk. We're holding, we've budgeted to hold 3 vacant positions throughout the year. We've got asset rationalisation savings identified in the budget also to be met. Collection agency relates to the timing of legal action costs against the cost recovery timing. And NDRRA emergent work, so through 3 events is a positive budget risk with the timing of revenue recognition of those. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms Bradley. Any questions for the officer? Councillor Baines.
Well, just a quick one, Mr Mayor, through you, and thank you, Ms Bradley. I see we spoke about the asset rationalisation ratio sitting at 42, and of course it will increase. Are we confident that we're going to stay within the target?
Based on our adopted budget, yes, we will be within that range.
Excellent. Great news. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Any further questions for the officer? If not, would somebody move that the report be received and noted, please? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour?
Yeah, in favour.
Carried. Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Carried unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms Bradley. We move on to item 4.3, page 66, a management report on council-owned facilities, and Mr Singh will present this report.
Good morning all.
Morning, Mr Singh.
Morning.
Councillors, the Queensland Audit Office, at the request of a former councillor, undertook a review of our council-owned facilities, and as part of that they have provided us with a recommendation in relation to 3 areas of deficiencies. So obviously 3 areas identified as part of the review include a lack of formal agreements in place for the use of council-owned facilities. Some buildings and community facilities are not on council's asset register, and they also identified that council did not identify and manage an employee's conflict of interest. So throughout the process, council staff and QAO has worked closely, and management has provided QAO with the assurance that council has been working towards rectifying some of these issues that has been identified. And at the same time, council has acknowledged that obviously it's not going to be a simple fix. So some of these will require a longer term effort in trying to address some of these. So under section 213 of the local government regulation, a copy of the management report is attached for council to note. Mr Mayor, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any questions for the officer? I'd just like to make a general comment that I think this is a very positive story for council. Asset rationalisation in general has been criticised in some sectors. We've received 13 unmodified audits, so clearly our finance staff are on top of the game. And the important words in the background here is the Attorney-General did not identify any significant deficiencies. Yet there are 3 areas of improvement, and our management have already agreed on the recommendations from the QAO, and corrective measures are already in place. So overall, a very positive story for council's financial management. So I thank your department for that. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Not, somebody move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Barnes. All in favour?
In favour.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. It's carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We move on to item 4.4, page 75, risk appetite statement, and Ms. Slattery will present this report.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay, today we are looking to present the updated risk appetite statement for council. So the risk appetite statement articulates the level and the type of risk council is willing to accept. So the risk type is by categories as per our enterprise risk management framework. So the categories which is outlined in the statement is financial, legal and regulatory, people and culture, operational, environmental and asset sustainability. In terms of the risk level, we've identified 5 levels, which is actually within the report. So the 5 levels, risk appetite levels are none, low, moderate, high and significant. So Council's Enterprise Risk Management Committee, along with councillors, have reviewed and updated the risk statement. So we now have 7 risks within low, 3 within moderate, 3 within the high, and 4 within the significant appetite level. If there's any other further questions, happy to take it. But the recommendation is that council adopts the updated risk appetite statement for 2021 as per the attached report.
Thank you, Ms. Slattery. Any questions for the officer?
Actually, can I just make one question? Sorry, there was actually just 2 minor amendments I wanted to make to the statement before I presented it. I just forgot about that. So on page 79 of your pack, item number 14, so environmental. So the statement there says there is a considerable appetite for decisions that promote economical sustainable development. We want to change the word out from considerable to high, so that reflects what the actual appetite level was. The word considerable was from the old rating that we used, so I just want to clarify that. The next one is actually item 15, which is asset sustainability. What we've said there is we have a high appetite. It should say we have a moderate appetite to accept that there will be some asset failures that have a moderate impact on the community. So I just want to switch out that first word, high, to moderate.
Okay, with those 2 changes in mind, would somebody move the recommendation? Or you want to say something first, Councillor?
Well, a small comment first, because I can't step away from government's rocks. I'd just like to commend Kelly and the team on about how we've brought a consistent language process into this risk management piece. I think it gives us better line of sight, gives us a few more options with how we work with it. So from me, Mr. Mayor, it was just a commendation to the team, and I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. Seconder, Councillor Chewy. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Councillor Millwood. Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Okay, we move on to item 4.5, page 79, Fraud and Corruption Control Framework, Audit Committee Charter and Complaints about Public Official Policy. Ms. Slattery will present.
Okay, so attached to the report today is a draft copy of the Audit and Corruption Control Framework for 2021. So the purpose of the framework is to minimise opportunities for fraud and corruption, whether it's committed internally or externally within the organisation. It's to protect public monies, property and information, and organisational and individual rights, and to maintain the effectiveness of council operations. The implementation will ensure that our workforce acts legally, ethically and in the public interest. The framework, the draft framework, which is contained within your pack, applies to all councillors, council employees, contractors, volunteers, and it's been based on 2 best practice fraud and corruption control resources. The 2 resources that we've used to prepare this draft is the CCC guidelines, so that's the Queensland Crime and Corruption Commission Fraud and Corruption Control Guidelines for Best Practice. We've also used the Australian Standards Fraud and Corruption Control Standards, so that's AS 8001-2021. So through the framework. It aims to articulate Council's commitment to zero tolerance towards fraud and corruption, its approach to controlling fraud and corruption. It's looking to embed a strong and proactive fraud and corruption control ethos within the organisation. It outlines roles and responsibilities for fraud and corruption control, and looks at strategies that we implement. When we reviewed the draft, we went to the audit committee just to get their feedback on that. One of the discussions that we talked about that is around the reporting of fraud and corruption allegations, in particular around the CEO. So under the current policy that we have within Council relating to matters relating to the CEO, the avenue to do that was through the governance lead, and through discussions with the audit committee, it was thought best to remove any personnel that had line of sight to the CEO and have that that person be an independent person. So we are looking to change that to the audit chair committee of the audit committee. So that currently is Mark Andrzejek. So along with this report, we are looking to update the audit committee charter, which will actually outline that the chair will have that responsibility. So that is to nominate the chair as the point of contact for complaints about the public official. So that's the CEO role. So we need to update that policy if that's what Council wishes to do. So also within the complaints about the public official policy, we need to change that from the governance lead to the chair of the audit committee. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms Slattery. Any questions for the officer? Councillor Baines.
No.
Sorry, and excuse me, Mr Mayor, but thank you again. Again, I think this is a fantastic piece of work again, and I'm not going to blow wind up officers all day, but I think with all these egregious allegations and accusations that do kick around in our social media space, I think giving this very relevant policies that attend to all the new legislations, we've taken advice from the CCC, there's much more transparency in this process, and I think that it identifies all the proper lines of investigations. And I'm not saying I believe that this social media stuff will slow down, but I think we've got these policies locked in post this vote, of course, and I think they're a great step towards instilling more confidence within our region in the processes that we go through, and that they can be followed correctly. So.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. I concur. The audit committee, internal and external, have line of sight of all the business dealings of council. No red flags have been raised, and the adjustment that Ms Slattery has talked about today in terms of an investigation going forward into the CEO will not be dealt by the governance lead. It will be dealt by the independent chair of the audit committee, who we have total faith in. So I think, again, open and transparent council and good governance. So I also endorse the recommendation today. There are three parts to the recommendation. One, we adopt the fraud and corruption control framework. Two, the audit committee charter. And three, the complaints about public official, section 48A of the Crime and Corruption Act. Would somebody move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour?
In favour.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms Slattery. We move on to item 5, Asset Sustainability, 5.1, page 148, CCRC Capital Report, August 2021. And Ms Perini will present this report. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms Perini.
Morning. So the report you have in front of you here is the capital report for the month of August, and I will report on the one that's included in the agenda. So Council are delivering their capital works program for this financial year. To the end of August, we had expended $14.3 million, including commitments, which equates to approximately 31% of the program. At the end of August, we had 151 capital projects in pre-construction phase and 54 in construction phase. Just a quick notable what we achieved in that month is included in the report. East Faluga Road culverts and Tully Gorge culverts were completed. Also, other notable projects we have on the go, Upper Darragee Road realignment project is on track for completion the end of September with line marking completed yesterday. Mission Beach pool shade is very close to PC. So the pool shade's completed with just an umbrella to move with that one. Warramie Road project is well underway with culvert works complete and road works started this week. Our sealed road renewal program, Wongaling Beach Road, Reed Road, Ernest Street and Mission Beach Library Car Park have been completed. Ernest Street actually opened today, so that one is complete as well. And Cartier Road footpath is in procurement stage and consultation with residents has begun with that one. And the final one I'd like to comment on today is the reseals. They're on track to be completed next week with line marking to commence 2 weeks later with weather permitting. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms Perini. Any questions for the officer? Councillor?
Through the chair.
Yeah, Councillor Millwood.
Just Ms Perini, I just wondered how Atherton Road's coming along.
Through the chair, I'd have to take that question on notice for you, Councillor Millwood, and provide you with an update.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. Councillor Chewy.
Thank you. Through the chair, just yes, yay for the shade sail at Mission Beach Pool. It's been very well received with the something that we heat coming in. And we do need to move that one umbrella, but it's sitting there quite happily at the minute, but I know it'll be in a better place soon. I'm just wondering if you're able to give us an update on the other pools in our area, Ms Perini, or should I bring that up in general business? Just the upgrades on the, I've been asked about Tully Pool by a couple of people.
Okay, sure. Through the chair, I'd have to, take that on notice or in general business.
Mr Goodman's going to help out with this one.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I hope I can. I think I heard the question was information on the Tully Pool.
And pools in general, just they've all been. There's had work done on the Innisfail Pool, I believe, and the Tully Pool as well. So thank you.
So through the chair, the works at the Innisfail Pool are complete. The painters that we engaged to paint the Innisfail Pool are the same contractors we're using at the Tully Pool. That work has commenced. That work was delayed as we delivered the Innisfail Pool works associated with rainfall, so it is slightly behind schedule, but we are expecting that the pool will be open in Tully in early next month.
Thank you, Mr Goodman.
Any further questions for Mr Goodman or Ms Perini? Councillor Barnes.
Just further on Ernest Street in Innisfail, it was inspected yesterday. It's a beautiful job. But my question now is, how's the rollout of the smart meters progressing?
Rollout of smart meters, it is progressing, Councillor Barnes. Through the chair, I should have said. I'll have to give you, if you want more detail though, I'm happy to provide it to you. I'll go back to the team and ask them to provide you with a detailed update.
Happy with that, Councillor Barnes? Any further questions? Councillor Baines.
Mr Mayor, thank you. Through you, I'm just very impressed. It's been a long time since we've seen a report with all green lights, only 2 yellow lights, and I may be wrong in saying it's just the infrastructure team. Is it infrastructure and delivery working together in this space? Yeah. So, I would again like to put my greatest commendations. I don't think I've seen a report with so many green lights and no reds. Great work.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. I've just got 2 queries. Page 154, Cardwell Disability Access Improve. There was a request from Seabreeze Cafe manager and Ublardi next door to have the 2 garden beds filled in. The garden are dead and vehicles are actually going over the top and doing damage to their undercarriage. So I know it's on Main Road's road reserve, but it'd be great to progress the safety issue around that because it's right beside a pedestrian crossing as well. The request has come from those two business owners, and it is about improving safety in that area. And the other one is page 151, aerodromes, the hard stand, asphalt hard stand at Mundu Airport. Is that for the car show that was planned and it's not? No?
Through the chair, that's for the planes to test their propeller before they go out onto the runway.
Okay, so another safety improvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Any further questions for the officers? If not, would somebody move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour?
In favour.
Thank you, Councillor Millwood. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Perini. We move on to item 5.2, page 159. Request to rename a section of Gallotta Road, Walter Lever Estate. And Mr. Goodman's going to present this report. Welcome again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, this report provides a recommendation to rename a portion of Gallotta Road, Walter Lever Estate. While the detail is well described in the report, there is a Ms. Sands has provided an image that can be viewed behind you, Mr. Mayor, of the exact section of road. So this is Silkwood, Walter Lever Estate Road. Most people would understand the Gallotta Road then goes to the north, but this section here off, if you're travelling this way, you turn left. That is also currently known as Gallotta Road. Apologies, I walked away from the mic. I don't know if do you want me to do that again? No, okay, thank you. So we have received a request to rename that section of road. Has created some confusion with deliveries in that section. Officers reviewed the request to rename that section of road Emmy Road. It would be named, the recommendation is that it be named in the after Mr. Antonino Emmy. Mr. Emmy's has been an honorary secretary of the Rural Fire Brigade Board in that area for 19 years. He was also the chairman of the Warrabullen Drainage Board for 12 years, and prior to that he was a deputy chairman. So that has been assessed against the naming of significant assets policy, and the view of officers is that, which I agree with, is that the applicant has met the applicable naming criteria and requirements. There has been some consultation with the other adjoining landowner there. The adjoining landowner is in support, and Lindsay Rural have also provided a letter of support to that proposal. So the recommendation, councillors, is that we rename that section between Lot 5 and Lot 7, which is at the moment named as Walter Lever Estate Road to Emmy Road.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. I personally support the recommendation. I've had a few phone calls from the residents in that area. I note Rural Lindsay is saying that there's some issues for them, but my biggest concern was emergency services. If they go down there for a heart attack or some other related health emergency, and they get confused because of the naming the road, we would never forgive ourselves. So I'm really pleased that this has happened. It's been a fair while in our system, and it's a great outcome, particularly for the nearby neighbours if they require emergency services. Anybody want to make a comment or any further questions?
I'll move the motion.
That's in your division, I believe, Councillor Millwood.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Baines.
Well, just a question first. I mean, with all these new Siri and Google and whoever else telling us where to go, where to travel when we're navigating, if they're in our vehicles rather than where to go, can we let them know that we make these changes? Is there a process there, David? Do we know how that goes through?
Through the chair, yes, there is a process to let them know of the changes. They operate under their own rules, though. Those sort of very commercialised Apple Maps, Google Maps, those sorts of things. But we will certainly, separate to that, we know emergency services don't. The information that we've provided is they have their own system. We also provide them with mapping and how to interpret our rural address system separately to that. But yes, there's a process to go through where we need to change the name of the road. We will certainly let those mapping providers know of the change, and they will deal with that however they deal with that.
I'm happy to second.
Okay, moved by Councillor Millwood, seconded by Councillor Baines. Any further comments? If not, put it to the vote. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Councillor Millwood?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
In
carried
favour. Yeah, all good.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr Goodman.
Thank you.
We move on to item 6, organisational cultural development, 6.1, page 162, the Christmas New Year shutdown of council offices, and Mr Crosby will present this report. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr Crosby.
Councillors, the first report here, as the Mayor said, is in relation to the annual shutdown that occurs between the Christmas and New Year period. You'll see in the report that the proposal is to shut down between from 3 p.m. on Wednesday the 22nd of December through until Monday the 3rd of January 2022 inclusive. There are some exceptions you will notice in the report. So just as some background to this, it is a practice that Council does adopt from year to year. It is also related to that many suppliers to the Council operation are also shut down over that particular period, and that does provide issues with supply of some resources to Council over that period. It is a period where many staff traditionally do apply for and have leave approved in any case over that period, and sometimes also beyond that period as well. The length of the shutdown involved there would be 5 ordinary business days, and we would seek staff to take leave during that particular period. That can be a combination of either from their annual leave or other accumulated balances, such as toil, for example. The other thing that is worthy of note here is that we would maintain skeleton staff over that particular period of the close down, and of course to also deal with any likelihood of emergencies or natural disasters that might arise during that period. The information centres would continue to operate during that close down period on days that are not public holidays, and in respect of waste transfer stations and landfills, they'll close only on Saturday 25th of December 2021. And then on the other days that are public holidays over that close down period, they would revert to the operating hours that would usually apply on a Sunday for that relevant facility. The recommendation therefore is that in general all other offices, libraries, depots would close between 3 p.m. Wednesday 22nd of December through until Monday 3rd of January 2022 inclusive, and then reopening on Tuesday 4th of January 2022.
Thank you, Mr Crosby. Any questions for the officer? I think Councillor Baines is first, then Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for your indulgence. I note that we have a lot of people come into our libraries and use the public computer systems. There's also quite a few that will bring in their own devices and actually connect into the Wi-Fi. We have a public Wi-Fi system there. As the libraries are closed and they can't get onto our fixed computers within, will they still have access to the Wi-Fi so they could go and sit on the chairs out the front? I mean, yeah, and I noticed Mr. Wilson left the room, but one of the IT boys is nodding his head at me, and here comes Mr. Sadler, because
Yes.
it is a thing that gets brought up by people who don't have,
Yes.
you know, access to their own computers. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Welcome, Mr. Sadler.
Thank you, Councillor Bones, and through the chair. Look, I suppose there's two parts to this. The first part is that obviously during Christmas close now, we've got to also allow our staff to rest and recuperate. But secondly, our Wi-Fi continues to work 24/7. So for people that do pass through our region, do get access to our Wi-Fi outside of ours as well. So that will continue as part of the service that we currently provide.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Councillor Chewy?
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. This might be for you as well. I'm not sure. Just in relation to the shutdown, our after-hours emergency phone line that we've had issues with, are we getting closer to a resolution or a change with that? Because we have had issues where it just nobody has picked up, so ultimately it's not working. So if we're closing for those days, we need to make sure that we're on all systems go. Thank you.
Yeah, look, through the chair, thank you for that question, Councillor Chewy. We are reviewing our after-hours service that, as you highlighted, we have had a few little issues of late. I am working with Mr. Bradford on that at the moment in relation to what the future does bring for us, and we are talking to a number of different suppliers in that regard.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the officers? If not, would somebody move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? Councillor Millwood?
Yeah, in favour. Yeah, in
Carried
favour.
unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Millwood. We move on to item 6.2, page 164, Business and Industry Liaison Officer, and Mr. Crosbie will present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report, councillors, refers to the establishment of a new role within the organisation establishment called Business and Industry Liaison Officer. It would exist, if approved, in the Delivery Service Department and specifically the Community Relations and Services section of the organisational establishment. The role has been budgeted for in Council's 2021-22 budget, and so I'd just like to then draw your attention to a couple of specific items out of the report. Critically, this role does complement aspects of the Council's corporate plan, and in particular the goal of economy, which refers to our future, which sets out to see a strong, diverse economy which provides opportunities for business and investment with an integrated approach to long-term planning where the region's assets meet community needs. The strategic objectives that are set out in that particular goal do refer to promoting a shared set of values that allows the business community and council to work together to effectively achieve a common purpose, and also encourage and facilitate investment in the region that will support both traditional and emerging industries and act as a catalyst for further employment and population growth. There has been consultation with business and industry in relation to this particular role, and through that process it did identify that council didn't have a resource available to support those strategic objectives. So that is what has led to the recommendation in relation to the establishment of this particular role. You'll see in the detail of the report the detail around the outcomes that the role is there to achieve, and unless there's questions on that, I'll then move to the recommendation, which is to establish the new role of Business and Industry Liaison Officer within the council's establishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crosbie. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going through the report in the whole, I think some of the really important parts.
Excuse me, just the mic.
Sorry, Dan. Going through this report in as a whole, I see there's some really important pieces in there about the building skills, shaping workforce, supplying of more skilled labour, local people as well to meet industry needs and demands. We're sitting in a catalyst position at the moment where industry is growing, and there's a lot of interest from other industries coming in, which I think is another fantastic ability within this position, that they can, this officer could liaise with these other businesses and help attract new business. Councillor Chewy and Councillor Millwood and myself had the opportunity to go up to the Pacific Labour and Pacific Workers Scheme Forum up in Cairns last week. And probably one of the greatest things I identified out of that full day's work, and I'm speaking on Councillor Chewy's behalf, but I do believe she really enjoyed the day and how it was all run. But one of the significant gaps that was identified on the day is they don't have a link to local government. And I think this position and this role is going to give us an ability to liaise with the feds and liaise with the state. And I support the feds and the state, absolutely. But local government, we're the ones on the coalface, we're the ones on the ground, we're the ones seeing what's going on. And I would love to see, and I'm sure it's described in the position description, that this officer liaising with those federal and state government departments is going to be a fantastic benefit to our area and allow us to grow into the space where we ought be, being the heart of the wet tropics and the birthplace of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baines. Further to that, this position has been tried and tested. COVID forced our hand. Chambers went into hibernation during that first 12 months of COVID-19, and Council said we will have a contact officer to help businesses and industry. Feedback has been that it's worked extremely well. We're now changing our organisation structure, if we adopt this vote today, to put this officer in place. And some of the great work that's been delivered goes to MOUs with the Chamber, something the Chamber's been asking for a long time. This officer has delivered that on the ground. So, as I said, in support of the recommendation, this position has been tried and tested. It's something that our ratepayers are asking for, particularly business and industry, and it has my full support. Are there any further comments or questions? Moved by Councillor Chewy, seconded by Councillor Pervin. All in favour? It's carried unanimously.
Yep.
Councillor Millwood?
In favour.
Okay,
Yeah, in favour.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Item 7, general business. Do we have any general business items? Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things for Mr. Goodman, please. Just while he's approaching the table, I will just remind people and thank the community. I'm having that My Community Connect market stall on Sunday at Mission Beach at the Monster Markets. Thanks to those that have brought in their information. There is still today and tomorrow. If people or groups, clubs, sporting groups would like to get their information to either the Tully or Mission Beach libraries, I can collect them before the weekend and use them for that stall. So I hope to see you there. Thank you. Mr. Goodman, if I may, just a couple of questions regarding Dunk Island. Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, Mr. CEO, is there any news? Can we talk about any sale or anything like that?
Through the chair, look, Council's not party to the sale of Dunk Island, but we are obviously aware of the reported sale to Upsense Media Capital. Council will play a regulatory role in the future development of the island. However, at this stage, we haven't received any development application.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Goodman, the caretaker is in place on Dunk Island regarding the spit and camping facilities?
Through the chair, yes, can confirm that new caretaker arrangements are in place and operating now.
All good. And the bookings for camping? Are they,
bookings for camping, we have delayed the changeover of that just to make sure that there was no confusion with the school holiday period, but immediately after the school holiday period we'll be transitioning to an online booking system, and in addition to that we're in the final stages. It could have already been finalised, but when I got my last update it wasn't quite, of agreement with the Mission Beach Vic to facilitate bookings as a face-to-face process as well.
But can people book after hours and things like that online?
365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They'll be able to book camping at Dunk Island.
Thank you very much. And just regarding there's bits and pieces of Mayfair still left over there and the footings and stuff. Who does that belong to now? And what is there? What can happen with it? Can you answer that at all, please?
Through the chair, those bits, the lease no longer. There is no lease there currently with Mayfair, so all of the ownership of those has fallen to council. There are some of those footings and foundations associated with the toilet block and the camp kitchen facilities that we are looking to utilise. And we are in negotiations with the builder that Mayfair had engaged. We understand that they had already procured some works, and we're looking to negotiate what we would hope would be a very good price to purchase that. If not, we will work out an alternative method of dealing with those. The other footings which are in there that are associated with the the bar facility that Mayfair were in the process of building. Right now, we have not made a determination of what we will do with that. That'll be informed on our future strategy in terms of going back to tender for a lease, or so. Just right now, we're making it safe, and we'll review that decision as things change at Dunk Island. It has the potential. Understand that it's a little unsightly right now, but it has the potential to be relatively valuable for a future developer of that area of the island.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goodman.
Any further general business? Councillor Barnes.
Good, thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I've got Mr. Goodman on stage, could you please give us an update on the STP in Cardwell?
Through the chair, we have received an invitation to apply for funding for $6 million worth of funding from the federal government. We are in the process now of we have been to access that funding. We've been asked to respond to a request from information through the Community Development Grants Program. Officers are working on that, and we anticipate that we'll be able to provide that to the federal government by the end of this week. Apart from that, we are continuing negotiations and discussions with the state.
Good, thank you. And it was only last night that myself had Senator McDonald's staff member Julian on the phone for a good while, telling us how Senator McDonald is so passionate about trying to get that dredging completed and bringing up a lot of discussion on the conformed deed, and we're explaining how it's emergency dredging, etc. What information have you got on the dredging project?
Through the chair, I can't provide any new additional information that hasn't been provided in the past, Councillor Barnes. That application has been made, and there's no new information. I see the CEO ready to maybe provide some additional information.
All right, good. Thanks very much. Now I know.
Sorry.
Councillor Barnes, CEO's going to respond.
Yeah, through the chair, we're still negotiating the final points of an agreement, a funding agreement that relates to the funding that was or could be allocated to that dredging.
Good, thanks, Mr. Goodman. Now, town planning, Dave, comes under your umbrella. Now, I know I was only reading last night that Queensland's had an influx of 43,000 people in moving into our state, and a lot of that's brought on through COVID, and we've seen a lot here. There's not too many more blocks of land left. Our own council blocks have now been 100% sold up on P Street. We have appetite probably to develop more. I think we also need, in our upcoming town plan, I've mentioned it before, a lot more industrial land. I know there's industries that has appetite to come to our shire. And I think us as a council, we should be forward-thinking and trying to look at good, cheap, industrial, flood-free land for these businesses, and we're in a prime position halfway between Cairns and Townsville. I think something that we should be doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Any further general business? Councillor Pervin.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just through yourself, I'd just like to let everybody know we've still got 4 more days of fishing for tilapia in the Warina Lakes catchment. It's been a great success. There's been families down there for the last 3 days. I myself have been down there. I think a lot of the councillors in this room have been down there to have a bit of a walk around. It's just, yeah, there's 4 more days of it. Get out there, the sun's outside, it's beautiful weather. Go and get rid of some of these pesky fish out of our water, that's all I can say.
Thank you, Councillor Pervin. Councillor Chewy.
Just in support of Councillor Pervin, look, I've been down there and it's fantastic. One lady, she was just lovely. She said, oh, she was so much gratitude. Thank you so much for doing this. It was quite moving to listen to her, and it was wonderful. There was kids everywhere, no phones, no iPads, just fishing lines in their hand, and they were just having a fat time as to who could catch the most, who could catch the biggest. So I congratulate all those that involved that have made it happen. So it's been a great, very successful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chewy. Councillor Baines.
Well, I've got to get in. Trudy got 2 shots, so. And Trudy neglected to mention, Mr. Mayor, about the junk art on Saturday down at Warina Lakes. There's a junk art display which is all about recycled items. I believe we have 12 entries at this stage. They're probably more by now, so it'd be lovely to see everyone there. And just to remind everyone that the big conclusion EcoFest Day is on Sunday down at Warina Lakes. There's plenty of NRM groups. There's departments, Department of Parks are coming down, the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. We've got some TOs doing some displays. Yep, Ozfish. So there's plenty of stuff to do. You'll have a last chance 2 hours in the morning for a quick fish, which I don't know if we're doing a secret prize on that one yet. We haven't really quite figured that out. And then post that, after the 10 o'clock has finished, the mini rail will be running on the day. So if they want to go on the mini rail, remember please bring closed shoes. Otherwise you can't go on the mini rail. There'll be a barbecue. It's going to be a great day, all the prizes, and we should be done lunchtime, early afternoon. So great day out. It's been fantastic seeing everyone there, and it's just an extraordinary event. I believe the largest tilapia tournament in Australia, and we still can claim that, and I believe it will continue to be. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Barnes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Further on the tilapia competition, be careful of Councillor Chewy. Yesterday it was an incident-free day from all the children, but when the Mayor and his lovely wife Marsha rolled up, Councillor Chewy said, "Oh, walk right around the end." So one poor child was snagged and pulled the line and hit the Mayor's wife in the head with the sinker, and the hook got caught in the forehead. We can laugh now, but it could have been a very dangerous situation. Is she all right, Mr. Mayor?
She's fine, Councillor Barnes. I looked after her as per normal, and the nurses were wonderful, and they actually brought a bit of light humour to the situation and said it was a fishing competition, and if it hook had landed in the lobe of her ear, it would have been a good look with the hook and the sinker. So she took that on board, but no, she's fine, mate. I just want to give a couple other programs a plug. I've been asked to mention Open Day at the Animal Refuge this Saturday, 9 to 12. Abandoned, neglected animals, the wonderful volunteers that care for them, and find a second home for these animals. So it's an open day for 3 hours. And also further south, the Seafest on October 2nd and 3rd. I recommend this to everybody. It's a fantastic event, and the highlight of the event is actually the crab race, and Councillor Barnes is race caller. Track conditions at the moment are dry, but if we do get wet weather, he does a penetrometer reading earlier in the day, and he will share all that information with fellow councillors to give punters a fair go. He's a really, really good race caller, and I recommend everybody show up to support Councillor Barnes at the crab race. Any further general business?
I have, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sadler? two very quick items. In one of our, Mr. Sadler, in one of our previous agendas, we had a lot of positions that were deferred, and a few little things that are coming to the front now and very important is our feral pig program. Do you know where we are with that?
Yeah. Through the chair, thanks, Deputy Mayor. I can confirm that the recruitment phase is complete, particularly on the conservation land management ranger position, and the incumbent has started in the last week or so.
Oh, good, thanks very much. And one of the other things in the previous agenda was the footpath levelling program. I know a study's been done in Cardwell getting ready for the Great Seafest festival that's coming up on the long weekend. Is that proceeding across the Shire?
Through the chair, I think you're referring to the asset management plan for the footpaths and the condition rating and the management plan moving forward. So as highlighted last time, it has been delayed, that project, in relation to resourcing. We haven't been able to fill the senior asset inspector role yet. In saying that, and from that last operational plan report, it was at 40%. There is some further detail that needs to be done in relation to the management system for the asset plan, but I suppose the on-the-ground inspection components, that's what we're waiting for, so we can get condition rating. I suppose in addition to that, we have had a capital program working on footpaths across the region, and I suppose recently Rankin Street and others have been done. So I suppose from a capital point of view, we are keeping in train with our renewals.
Happy with that, Councillor Barnes?
Yes, and just lastly, I know I was talking to traditional owners only last week, and they're very excited about their involvement with the mountain bikes. And I know you've very passionate, along with the council, on that downhill bike project. Is there any updates on that? Lastly,
yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor, through the chair. We have been working with the project group in relation to finalising the feasibility report, and recently, as recent as in the last fortnight, Justin and myself and a few others went to Cardwell to look at the skills track and getting that kicked off, and getting a project person to obviously help us with getting the design and construction phase complete of that. So we're down at the reserve area down there and had a look around at not only the existing facilities but where the trailhead and those things will go. So confident that we'll still be able to deliver that project within the timeframes that we have in relation to the federal funding.
Councillor Chewy.
Sorry, I'll be very quick. Just thinking about all the events that have been going on recently. We've had the fishing tournament at Curramine, the Art Deco, the Tilapia, on a mission at Mission Beach. I'd just like to congratulate our team that's worked hard behind that, all those, making those events possible. September is a very big month for events, so just congratulations, and to the team behind the desks that make things work for our community. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Chewy. Are there any further general business items? Councillor Millwood, you got no general business?
No general business today, sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you. Okay, I'll declare the meeting closed at 10:15. Thank you.
Thank you.